Okay, welcome everyone to the Solana Foundation Validator discussion, August 15th, 2024. Let's see, there we go. Agenda for today, we're going to talk about some validator updates, including the recent security issue, a reminder about Breakpoint and all the side events. Then Marinade is here to talk about their staking marketplace, and then open discussion if there's any other topics people want to bring up. Let's get in. All right, so first of all, mainnet beta validators, please update to 1.18.22 as soon as possible if you've not done so already. The patched version of 1.18.21, if you followed the patch instructions, is equivalent. So either a patch 1.18.21 or 1.18.22 is recommended for mainnet beta. A very brief recap of the issue. So on August 8th, 2024, operators patched and updated to either the patch version of 21 mentioned here or 1.18.22. The issue was an attack that could have taken down the leader, so essentially crashed the leader if the attack were executed on the leader as it was producing blocks. The cluster is now patched and an RCA will be out soon. I don't want to get into too much more technical detail, kind of let the RCA do that, but any questions just about the process there? Make sure I get more people. I'll look in chat as well. Nope. Okay, well, looks like there's no questions, but just want to say a big thank you to all the operators. It was a big effort to get the cluster patched and updated in a timely manner. So thank you all for being responsive and making the update happen. Same goes for testnet. 2.0.5 is recommended for testnet. That includes the patch that's also applied to mainnet. So again, if you've not updated, please update as soon as possible. Then another note here, timely vote credits has been activated on testnet. So big thank you to Zentetsu and to all the people in the community to help get that through. Next up is mainnet. Any other questions about those updates? Nope. All right. When does it go to mainnet? So yeah, there's a question in the chat about when timely vote credits goes to mainnet. I believe there are 3 or 4 activations in front of it. Typically, there's 1 activation per epoch and only on weekdays when epochs roll over. So typically about 2 epochs a week. So probably within 2 to 3 weeks, I would imagine. I'll have to double check if Will is on the call. He's not. I'll double check on that and then respond in Discord, but probably within 2 to 3 weeks is my expectation. Okay, a reminder about Breakpoint. Breakpoint is 36 days away now, so getting very close. If you've not gotten your tickets, please do so now. I think it'll be a really great event, especially with the side events. So Block 0 is September 18th, Stake Point is September 19th, and MEV/DeFi Day is also September 19th. So personally, I got a lot of value out of all the side events last year, and I think that's kind of how Breakpoint is trending. The side events are really becoming the main event for your sort of niche area, especially for validators. So again, encourage everyone who can and is able to attend Block 0, Stake Point, MEV Day, and be a part of the in-person community. Any questions about all that? Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
It's not a question, but a comment that if anybody registered for any validators registered for Block 0 and have not been accepted yet, please reach out to me, Michael, Brian Smith, or Brian Long to let us know, because the Guest list is pretty much full at this point. We did our best to get as many validators in there as possible, but we may have missed a few. So if you haven't been accepted and you did apply, please reach out to one of us so we can make sure you can get in.
Awesome, thank you. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Good question. Yeah, Discord, I guess. You can find me in the Solana Discord chats, and then you can DM me.
Sounds good. All right. Any other questions or thoughts about Block Zero, Stake Point, MEV Day, Breakpoint in general? All right. Okay. Now Marinade is going to talk about their stake market, which I believe launched yesterday. So if you all are on the call, feel free to take over.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
If you can let me share my screen.
Yeah, sorry, let me stop sharing.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Serba, a contributor at Marinade, and today I'm here to talk about the new delegation strategy that was released yesterday by Marinade. So let's start with the issues that were existing with the previous strategy. So as you may be aware, the previous strategy was relying on uptime, performance, and decentralization, but some ASO or some countries were completely excluded from receiving stake due to those decentralization constraints. The previous strategy also allocated 40% of the pool to directed stake, 20% to MSOL, 20% to MNDE. But a large part of that stake was directed to a small amount of validators, and they often were running at a higher commission, which hurt the APY for all stakers. The redelegation process was also quite long, and I know some validators on that call have suffered from this, waiting multiple epochs to get the stake that they were supposed to receive. And finally, this previous strategy didn't allow to set a custom commission for Marinade. Marinade could just stake to existing validators with their existing commissions. And the possibility to share additional rewards also didn't exist. So this is why Marinade introduced this new strategy, which will distribute 10% of its TVL based on MNDE votes and 90% of its TVL based on the stake auction marketplace. So the stake auction marketplace is a new concept that Marinade has been working on for the last month. And the idea behind the stake auction marketplace is that validators have multiple sources of revenues, and they cannot share all of them with stakers in protocol. So Marinade introduced this concept of bid, which is an amount of sol per epoch and per 1,000 sol that you receive staked on your validator, where validators can basically share those additional revenue sources or basically tweak their commission just for Marinade and Marinade stakers. So the stake auction marketplace works by having validators positioning themselves with a max APY that they would be offering to stakers. That max APY is composed of the inflation rewards, the MEV rewards associated with the commission of your validator, obviously, and your validator bid for the epoch, which we call CPMPE. And this bid is what you can use to share additional block rewards, offset a commission that would be non-null, or basically set the APY that you want to bring to stakers. And then Marinade will distribute the stake to the validators offering the best NAPY while respecting some decentralization constraints to avoid all the stake going to a specific country or all the stake going to a specific ASO. And Marinade also takes into consideration the current decentralization of the entire network and has some limits there. So if more than 30% of the stake is already in a single country, I believe it would not be eligible to get more stake from Marinade. The stake auction marketplace also works on what we call the last price mechanism. So this mechanism has been thought to allow validators to position themselves with the real max APY that they can reach, while the auction winning APY will be the value that matters for a given epoch. So if your max APY as a validator is below the auction winning APY, you just do not receive stake because other validators have a better deal than you to offer to stakers. If your validator is exactly at the auction winning APY, it would mean that you're basically paying the entirety of your bid in order to reach that APY. And if your max APY is superior to the auction winning APY, you would only pay your effective bid, which corresponds to the amount of rewards that would be needed to reach this auction winning APY. So that system has been thought in order to allow validators to set their maximum threshold. They can set their profitability level where they want. And it's just a question of receiving stake or not from the marketplace based on the competition after that. If you want to participate, what you need to do as a validator is to set up a PSR bond using the CLI that we have available. You then set a CPMPE, which is the bid that you're putting every epoch to receive stake, and the amount of stake that you want maximum, because you may want to bid for stake, but not for the 2% of Marinade's TVL. And then you can use the simulation that we have running on psr.marinade.finance to see the simulation of the scoring system and how the stake would be distributed. Once you've set your CPMPE and your amount of stake wanted, you'll see in the simulation what is the max APY that your validator is bringing to stakers. And the ways to increase this max APY is either increasing your bid or lowering your condition. And Marinade has also made a calculator available for you guys to help you guys calculate where you want to set your CPMPE. So the current state is that the delegation strategy changed this epoch. So Marinade will now be starting to redelegate the existing SOL in the pool to those new validators that have set their bid. We have more than 480 validators with a bond setup, with around 23K SOL in the bond balance in total. And we have more than 200 validators that have already set their bid and are participating in the stake auction marketplace. Currently, given the constraint that you cannot receive more than 2% of the TVL, the maximum amount of SOL that you could receive from the stake auction marketplace would be 150K SOL, but that obviously changes depending on Marinade's TVL. I've listed a bunch of helpful links and resources to help you get started, and I'll be sharing the presentation in the chat. And that's about it. If you have any questions or if you want to discuss anything around the marketplace, feel free to join Marinade's Discord. It's where most discussions are happening. And we invite you to give it a look and give it a try if you're interested. Thanks a lot for your time.
Looks like there's a couple questions for you, both in chat and someone's raising their hand as well.
Yeah, let me read that. So for Deepul's question, are there any other incentives to keep nodes in a unique geolocation? From Marinade's new strategy point of view, no, there are no additional incentives to running in a single location. SimDigit is asking if we have a forecast of what we expect the TVL to be in 6 months. That's quite hard, but our goal is obviously to double the TVL, triple it, or at least increase it significantly by improving the yield that Marinade is able to give to users, and also by having this Marinade native product that cooperates with the liquid product that we have. My optimistic guess would be 16 million SOL mid next year. I would be aiming for that. Digital Energy is mentioning something about US validators still not being eligible to participate. We do have some decentralization constraints that we're trying to maintain. And it's possible that US validators might be above it, because if I recall correctly, the concentration in the US is the highest. So I would need to check your specific case, but it's possible that by running a node in the US, you may exclude yourself if there's already too much stake in the US. There's also a question from Murat. Could it be considered that the new delegation system has reduced the yield rates due to the high bids of validators? It seems like a system that is more beneficial for delegators. In light of this, could we expect the bids and therefore the maximum APY to decrease in the long term? So the stake marketplace is obviously tailored a bit more for delegators than for validators. Validators have to lower their margin if they want to obtain stake. But we believe that the benefit to validators is that by improving the APY of Marinade, we may be able to get a lot of large players that are holding their SOL on their own private node or holding their SOL on platforms such as Coinbase. We really hope that they would be more interested in staking with pools and distributing that stake to more validators. So that's kind of the objective of the marketplace, is to reduce the margin of validators in the first time, but to grow the pie of stake to be distributed in the long run. Triangle has a question on what's your opinion about it creating more opportunities for toxic men, aka sandwiches. So this has been the biggest debate around the stake auction marketplace up until now. And it definitely is a question. We just don't believe that Marinade should be the ones solving it completely on their own. MEV negative externalities are created by a bunch of different things, whether it's the wallet and app design, whether it's the existence of JITO bundles. And if you think about it, in the current strategy, we may already have some validators doing sandwiching attacks and receiving stake from the current strategy. And that wasn't a banned behavior because the tools to detect such validators are non-existent. And you basically have to, it's a game of cat and mouse to try to identify with certainty who would be running bad MEV. So this is a discussion that I think we want to have with the community, and we want to tackle as an ecosystem, because we don't think that Marinade by itself, taking some stance on it, will change things in the long run. And you already have those bad actors getting stake by offering outsized returns. They just do it in private deals. So maybe the fact that everything is happening in this stake auction marketplace will put a lot more light on this topic and will help everyone find some long-lasting solutions to it. Will you release dashboard to check if you win and how much you paid for it? Yeah, the tooling around PSR and the stake auction marketplace is planned to be improved. But currently, the only resources that we have are the one that we've shared publicly. Oh yeah, sorry guys, you have a bunch of questions that you want to ask, so let's take yours, Brian.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it feels a bit disingenuous when you come on here and you tell validators to sign up for this program, but no one can sign up and make a profit, right? If anyone signs up, just a normal validator, the current bid is 10.15% APR. So if anyone that signs up right now, they're gonna lose stake, and they're gonna have to pay you, right? They're gonna have to pay you to be in this program. There's increased risk, all sorts of reasons. So no one can actually join it unless you're doing some sort of side deal, running sandwich attacks, doing stake weighted QoS. But no one knows how to do that, or most people don't know how to do that. So it's really, you're talking to like a very small subset of players who can actually take advantage of that. So I feel like if you're going to come here and tell us to sign up for it, then maybe you should also tell us, about, if you want people to participate, then we need to know about those sorts of, stake weighted QoS, side deals, obviously not sandwiching, but it feels like that conversation needs to be happening. Like, how are people making, 10.5% APY? Like that's the huge conversation we need to have for this to really move forward.
Yeah, absolutely, and appreciate your feedback there. I just want to mention that when I mean that we invite validators to participate, it doesn't necessarily mean we invite you to outbid the current bidders. I think it's healthy for any validator to participate and set a bid at their own profitability level. And if we have a lot of validators showing, well, this is what I would be willing to share and stay in profit, it will give us a better insight on how many validators are really able to go above 10% APY. Are they able to sustain it in the long term? And so you as a validator could set your bid to provide 9% APY and just let the marketplace run for a while and see if the APY goes down, if those actors bidding more than you go out. And that also gives time for the conversation around all those side deals and MEV to happen, and maybe for some changes to be made on the marketplace itself. So I really don't want you guys to take from this that you should go to psr.marinade finance and outbid everyone. But I think it's interesting for any validator to think about their profitability on stake and set the bid at a level they're comfortable with if they would want to receive stake from Marinade.
Yeah, I think the barrier there is that in order to bid, you have to sign up with your program, right? You have to put a bond, you have to stake your SOL, and it's just sitting there. Sure, like we're staking SOL, and it's going to our own validator, but there is some smart contract risk associated with that. So just putting, let's say, 150 SOL on this program when you're bidding, and then it's not actually being used for anything because the max APY is 1.15% above your bid, then you're just sitting there at 9%. And so, but yeah, I appreciate your answer.
Yeah, and that makes sense. You can actually set your CPMPE and stake wanted and have a bond of 2 SOL if you want, and you would only fund the bond if it starts making sense, if you're coming closer to the auction winning APY, for example. But definitely understand the concerns here. So let me take additional questions from the chat. So the current pool fee is 6%. I remember some discussions of Marinade reducing it to 0%. When will it happen? I believe this should happen in the next 2 to 3 months top. That's still the plan. Once we are able to have a fee on the bids and we can remove completely the fee on MSOL. Is Marinade banning known sandwichers? Not at this stage. That's a conversation that's currently happening, but not at this stage. Chris is saying, we've been working with the calculator and right now it seems that to be eligible, our profitability would drop. Are we doing something wrong? And what metrics would we look to flip that around? Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate all the information you've been giving us on this, and you've been super responsive. But I think the answer to my question probably relates to what Brian was just saying. That, I mean, like for example, the way we did it, like to attract the maximum amount of SOL we could, we could attract that SOL, but then our profitability would drop. So it's almost like attracting the SOL becomes a vanity metric, unless, to Brian's point, we're able to use that increased SOL to profit in other ways. So I think that's the unexpected answer to my question. But if you have anything else to add, please do.
Yeah, not really. I just want to mention that for Marinade, it's a bit hard to know what exactly the revenue sources and of validators are, and we didn't necessarily plan that they would have so many different of them. So the marketplace has the goal of being completely agnostic, and what it currently shows is that you have a set of validators able to get outsized returns and outsized rewards on stake. And I think it's interesting to have a marketplace where everything happened publicly, because that allows all validators to compare themselves and wonder why those validators are able to give such a high APY. Are they able to do so by doing something that hurts the network or not? And I think it will put light on the conversation, on those conversations that need to be had, for sure.
I actually think that is a really important point, Alex, because without this, no one really actually knew what was happening in the background. But now it's out in the public. Everyone can see it. There's people making, 10, 11% APY. Maybe they're making a loss and they're going to be paying you back for the bond. But I would assume that if they're making that bid, there is some confidence in it. So then apparently there's money out there to be made, hopefully not through silencing, but potentially through other deals that are good for the network, like stake-weighted QoS or other items.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can take an example of a validator running MEV himself on his own leader slots, not doing sandwiching, but finding all the other opportunities. That would be an additional revenue source that other validators don't have. And it's really hard to know, is this validator just selling his stake to mempools, or is he doing it himself? So at least the stake auction marketplace has the benefit of being in public. And we'll see over a few epochs if those validators offering the best APY are able to sustain it, or if they end up dropping out, if they were just trying to game the system. And I think the release of the marketplace has taken quite a few months, and we really wanted to get it out there. But it will be in perpetual evolution, and improvements are obviously welcome to it. So really counting on all you guys to keep us in check there. I might have missed a few questions in the chat, but I don't think so. I think it turned into a discussion. Yeah, go ahead, Saifa.
Hey guys, so I come from the perspective as both a validator operator as well as a full-time MEV searcher. I know that mempools on Solana have been a pretty private thing, especially around sandwiching. Now those conversations have been starting to have publicly. Private mempools, they currently have many different validators. If there exists a world where a sandwiching validator could earn an additional, call it 5% APY from sandwiching on their leader slots, and let's say now there's 50 validators that are bidding 5% on for stake from Marinade. To be clear, with the current design of Solana, it's stake-weighted QoS, arbitrage, non-malicious MEV. They're not going to beat out the profit from malicious MEV. And so if exists a world where a regular validator, a non-malicious validator is not able to outbid these validators that are getting all of Marinade's stake and doing sandwiching, is Marinade of the position where they would consider blocking validators that are doing sandwiching from entering this program? Or are your goals to create a decentralized marketplace where now MEV searchers that are also node operators can compete, basically trying to get more MEV profits in their leader slots?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and it's the crux of the debate today. It's really hard to draw the line on what is bad MEV, what is good MEV, where the ecosystem should fix those issues. Is it directly in wallets and apps? Is it at the stake delegation level? Is it at the JITO bundle level? So I think it's going to take a bit of time for those discussions to happen. And the conclusion and the answer is not that clear. But what I want to mention is that Marinade is extremely Solana aligned. So if we are able to identify behaviors that hurt the network, it would make sense to keep them off of the delegation set. We just need to have clear definitions of what's bad for the network and what's okay. And how do you identify such actors with 100% certainty? Because you don't want to rely on shaky data or just a feeling that this validator might be doing something bad. So it's not that Marinade doesn't want to tackle those issues. It's just that we need to do it in the right way and take some time over those issues, I would say. I don't know if I missed more questions. you decrease the exposure for MND gauge stake. What is the future of MNDE? That's a good question. It actually, in some way, belongs to MND holders to determine. But I believe that as a governance token, the perspective for governance tokens are quite clear. So it's meant to be ownership of the Marinade protocol, its treasury, and potentially its revenue flow. That's the idea. I'm trying to catch up on questions, but I think I covered them all. If there's one that I have missed or didn't answer, feel free to repost it, please.
A question I have for you, Alex, is as this marketplace matures, which it definitely will, you know, like even just in a few months, it'll probably change dramatically. One thing I have curious about the future is if the sort of the margin of difference on validators offering competitive APY goes down, meaning like let's say like the top 200, like the difference between the best APY offer to Marinade and and then the 200th sort of next best, and that gets pretty close. Do you guys see a world where you start delegating to more and more validators the tighter that competition becomes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And I even think that as Marinade TVL grows, this 2% of the TVL that you can receive would also evolve. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to give 500K to a single validator. If you have 50 million SOL to distribute, you should try to make an impact on as many validators as you can. If, as you mentioned, the discrepancy between the APY that you can get is not too large on the top. Yeah, so definitely. Yeah, Cypher.
This may be a question, maybe Tim, to you. As a part of the SFTP program, a new validator can come onto the SFTP program. They could delegate 100 self-stake, and then they could bid for 100,000 SOL of Marinade stake in order to get a matching of 100,000 SOL from the SFTP. And basically earn, the additional rewards. They would set 100% MEV commission and 7% inflation commission, and essentially be able to milk the SFTP stake in order to bid for Marinade and take off the top. Is that something that SFTP is concerned about? Do they want the 100,000 stake to be get organically, or is that something that's not a concern?
Yes, it's a concern. I would say that it's something that both Ben and I are actively thinking about and should have an update on soon. But I agree that that's not a great situation for SFTP to be in, because then it's essentially not achieving our goals, right? Our goal is to have an independent validator set, and that would just create more validators that were relying on SFTP to make their profits. So we're reviewing it.
Yeah, and a big component of SFTP, like Tim said, is to try to create a larger independent validator set. So us being allowing people to charge uncompetitive commission rates is something that needs to come down over time for sure. So like the most sort of commission and sort of the least, trying to bring that down to where the max is close to the competitive is probably something that you'll see happen over time. Right, like the max commission used to be 10%. The network has matured. The acceptable commission take rate has been going down, and we saw the drop from 10 to 7. We could see further drops there potentially in the future. And MEV commission now probably really can't be ignored. I think for a while, especially in the beginning, it was relatively inconsequential. It's no longer the case, so you might see changes there as well in the future. And that's the goal, to not have sort of this perverse incentive where you've got one delegator on the network that behaves differently than all of the others, especially when it comes to requirements around competitiveness. So anything that we see that like hurts the ability for validators to want to go out on their own and want to be competitive is something we're going to look to decrease over time.
Got it. Thank you, guys.
I see a last question in the chat. Will Marinade blacklist validators rejected from SFDP? Most are rejected due to Sibyl or Sandwich. That's not something that we do right now. There are criteria for being blacklisted already, but that could be an improvement or an evolution of the strategy if the community is feeling quite strongly about it. So that's on the table, I would say. But
yeah,
we will need. Yeah.
A data point from here is I don't think that the Solana Foundation should be like a global blacklist for validators. Like, you know, we'll make our own staking decisions. Now, I'm not opposed to, like, if we make staking decisions around blacklisting people, or like it's possible to share data, probably not KYC data, but certainly for other reasons. It's just I don't think that the foundation should be governing who and who isn't allowed to be staked on the networks. I would rather not have like us be some sort of, I don't know, so like a social situation where people are expected to follow.
All right. Seems like we're out on questions. Let's Blake. Yeah, I agree with what Blake said in the chat there, that this is just a good sign of the evolution of the network. Are there any other topics people want to discuss, or we can end the call there? All right, big thank you to Alex from Marinade and for all the questions and answers. Very much appreciated. Good discussion. And next month, we will have the next Validator community call, Solana Foundation Validator community call. I may do it a week earlier because I think the way it's scheduled right now, it's right before Breakpoint, like a week before I'll be traveling for Breakpoint activities. So just keep an eye out for that. It might be, let me check the calendar real quick. Yeah, maybe September 5th for the next call. But I'll notify everyone there. All right, thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.